Good morning. We're here for our weekly Marion County Board of Commissioners meeting. It is Wednesday, August 21st, 2024. We're here in the Commissioners Boardroom. And as always, we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'll join us, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have Noni signed up for public comment this morning. And Commissioners, if one of you would like to make a motion to add an item to the agenda, that'd be great.
I will do this, Mr. Chair. I'd like to move to consider approval of an ordinance to allow eligible properties to be subject to special assessments pursuant to Chapter 94, Oregon Laws 2024, Senate Bill 1545, repealing Marion County Ordinance 1473 and declaring an emergency.
I second the motion.
We have a motion and a second to add that item. Any further discussion?
This is just the tax exemption for burned properties in the canyon, and I wanted to show my support by voting for it, even though I wasn't there at the meeting. So that's
all right.
What it is.
Duly noted for the record. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. All right. Nobody for public comment. Presentation on the Dolly Parton reading Imagination Library. It's been a while.
A year, I think.
Has it been that long?
Yes, it
okay.
has. Can you get one up front?
So good morning, Commissioners. Thank you so much for the invitation. Let me see if I can get the PowerPoint here.
While she's rocking on that, I'll just introduce a little bit. I'm Kelly Weiss. I'm the Economic Development Program Manager here at Marion County. And this morning we're hosting Margie Lowe of the Marion and Polk Early Learning Hub, who's here to provide a report on their work to bring the Dolly Parton Imagination Library here to Marion County families. So Marion County has a grant agreement with the Marion and Polk Early Learning Hub, which allocates $30,000 a year for 3 years from our Economic Development Program Fund, which is through lottery dollars, to be able to implement the Dolly Parton Imagination Library program here in Marion County. So that's why Margie's here, to be able to talk about how great this is and all the work that they've done so far.
So good morning, Commissioners. For the record, I'm Margie Lau with the Marion and Polk Early Learning Hub.
Welcome.
And I just want to thank you all for bringing joy to me. I hope bringing joy to you as well, and knowing how much joy you're bringing to so many children all across Marion County. As Commissioner Cameron recalled, it was a year ago that I was here to lay before the Commission some choices in terms of ways in which you might be able to help us expand the reach of the program that we had started a year earlier in just 4 zip codes. 97301 in Salem, Kaiser, and Independence and Falls City. And with your support, you know, our hub serves all of Marion and Polk County, but our charge from the legislature is to serve our highest need communities as our highest priority. As a little bit of a background, I track a lot of the data in terms of educational and other socioeconomic factors that affect our families and our kids. And unlike our neighbors to the north in Multnomah County, where their reading proficiency rate levels are above 50% for children at the end of grade 3, our numbers are in more the mid 20% level. That's really a daunting number for us, because children who do not read well at the end of grade 3 are 4 times as likely not to finish high school. They're 60% less likely to participate in post-secondary education. These are things that are critical from a lottery perspective to the economic development of our community and our state, and our ability to attract employers looking for capable workforce. So, you know, we're starting early. We're working on the very front end of this process by trying to better align our systems so that they're coordinated and family-centered, so the kids arrive at school ready to learn, and also families are stable and attached. We have a lot of different programs that help to do that, but Dolly Parton is our biggest program that does that. much because of, thank you for Marion County's participation, where you funded with your resources 9 additional zip codes. So you funded my largest zip code here in Salem, which is the Northeast Salem 97305. But you also allowed me to pick up all of my smaller communities from St. Paul to Turner and North Marion, Aurora, and Hubbard, and Donald, and all of those other communities, Woodburn. So we've had some really great numbers. Just as a quick summary to refresh, and as Kelly was telling me, hopefully there's some folks out listening to this hearing that could learn and also figure out that, hey, I know somebody who's under age 5. They should sign up for this program. With Dolly's program, a free book is mailed to every child who's under age 5 who's registered for the program at no cost to the family. They are age-specific tips, and I've included on your dais some examples of some of the books that have been sent. And once we move past the baby board books, the books come with a flyleaf that actually gives the parent what I call a monthly literacy lesson on how to help build their child's reading skills. One of the things that's challenging is parents are really busy, and to get their attention, but we know these kids love these books. I can't tell you how many parents tell me that their kids are so eager for when the mail's going to come. One parent told me that her child thinks that every day that when the mail comes, there should be a book in the mail for her. So it's like, okay, well, you just have to look forward to that one day a month. So anyway, they're really great books. And so, the state is giving us some additional resources to really focus on childhood literacy skills. We're going to be working with a lot of community partners in order to expand the reach of that, and trying to also then articulate that with the additional resources that our public schools are also getting, that also are going to be focusing on the K-3 literacy part of this. We do a lot of partnership programs with our county schools. Here are the zip codes that were funded here in Marion County with the $30,000 grant that you've awarded us. And I don't think I included the specific numbers, but the report that I submitted earlier, a month ago, actually lays out what our growth rate has been for each one of those communities. And I see Commissioner Willis at Rotary Club frequently, and if I remember, I've always got my monthly totals that I share with him, the rate of participation.
It's true, she does.
So we have shared the program in many different ways through our schools, through social media, and then also at a number of different kinds of events. We have been a long-standing partner with the Toy for Joy distribution program in December. We host kind of the front end of that here in the Salem area. And so, families are given information and encouraged to sign up, not just for a book at that event, but a book every month for their children up to age 5. And, even in just getting started in November, we had already had 369 children signed up by December 1st. So, it's moved really quickly. This speaks to more of kind of the process that we've had. We are very active in terms of outreach, and we do a lot of different community events all across the county, and Dolly Parton is one of the things that we're most avid at sharing at those events, and our numbers show that. I think, as I shared earlier in my presentation, we're at 6,069 kids in the program as of this morning. So our numbers have been phenomenal. The only challenge that I have is that families have become accustomed to a very rapid delivery system for things that they order.
Oh, yeah, Amazon, it's the worst.
Yes. And so, and the website was a little bit confusing for the registration process, where families thought, because of what it showed for what the delivery date is for books for that age of child, that meant that that's when their book should have arrived. Some of those dates were even prior to when the child had just been registered. And so I would get emails or phone calls from people saying, well, we're confused. Why hasn't our book arrived? And I'll look at the registration date, and I'm like, well, you registered only 3 days ago. And there's a 8 to 12 week delivery time that takes place because it is a batch process. Child is registered in 1 month, the labels and the book orders made for the following month, and then in the 3rd month, the book is actually mailed. And it should
That's
arrive
quite the
in
delay for a
families.
kiddo.
It is. But you think about it, if you subscribe to a magazine, it's basically that same timeline in terms of when you
I
get your
can't say
first
I've ever
copy.
subscribed to
People
a
used to do
magazine.
that. People
I
used to
know.
subscribe to magazines,
I
Commissioner
know.
Bethel.
Highlights was the thing in my
I remember
childhood.
highlights, yeah.
It never came, even though I subscribed to it. They still owe me my money back.
I couldn't wait for my Sports Illustrated when I was a kid every week.
Yeah. It came every week? That's probably part of
was
this
weekly.
issue. Yeah.
So, anyway, it is kind of a learning process for our new families, but once those books start arriving, at some of these community events, I will collect feedback, quotes from families about, so how's it working? Have you encountered any problems? It is a bit of a puzzle. Sometimes I had one family tell me that the post office, for whatever reason, does not recognize their home address as a valid address. Even though it's right there on the street, you can Google Maps it. And so we talked about different options, and she said, well, my mom lives just a block away. And I said, let's change the address to your mom's address then, as long as your mom's willing to send the books back the child's way. I did have a few issues with child care providers wanting to sign up the children in their care for the program. And then the system would flag the child as being a duplicate if a parent then subsequently wanted to register them. So I did a bit of an education process for the parents and the child care providers that the books are sent to the child. They are a gift to the child, and so they should go to the child's home. So we're running at 156% of the national registration rate. The reason for that is because we use a much more extensive outreach process than what happens in most of the affiliates. In most of those other affiliates, they're relying on the family walking through the doors of a library. And we're going out to the families rather than waiting for the families to come to us. We have every community in Marion and Polk County is in the program now, either from a local sponsor or from the HUBS program, except for Dallas. And so I'm working really hard, grant writing, and also working with the local community to try to find a way in which we can stop having to make Dallas exceptional in this way. We're having our first fundraising event at the Gilbert House on September 27th. It's going to be a storybook character adventure. The Gilbert House is a great place for families to go anyway, but we're going to have 30 different people in character costumes throughout the facility where children will be able to collect autographs. Some of you may have been with family at a storybook character, at a Disney breakfast where you could collect Mickey or Minnie's autograph. Well, this is going to be that times 10. So it's going to be a lot of fun. We've got a lot of different community businesses who are really stepping up to help sponsor the event. So we want to make sure that what we're doing is sustainable. So this just speaks to some of the issues in terms of grade 3 and how important reading is. Although we're serving over 6,000 children, as one of my Rotarians frequently reminds me, yes, but that means we're missing 17,000 children. We still need to do a lot more outreach in order to get to those other families. And so Kelly and I were brainstorming, and I'm hoping that you can give me some suggestions and ideas as well of what kinds of mechanisms do you have here under the county's umbrella or other partners that we could link up with to reach those families who've not yet heard or benefited from the program.
Well, aside from the fact that I just asked our communications person to do a press release on it today and create a QR code to this, we can advertise that. The health department has many programs in public health that could figure out a way, like the WIC program would be a great place. Our health administrators in the back of the room. The WIC program would be a great place. The clinic, having posters up in there. I could come up with various places, if you have posters to put them throughout the county, I think would be helpful that our public interacts with.
Yes, I have posters in English and Spanish both.
I'm actually on your website right now doing a test run for my granddaughter to sign up to see how this works, because I want to be able to say it's not too difficult. So far, I'm not hindered. So,
It's a very easy process. Parents can do it in 5 minutes or less in terms of signing their child up. And from an administration point of view, you probably often heard programs called turnkey operations. I certainly have heard it in my 40-plus year career, but I would tell you that this is really the first time I've encountered one that truly is a turnkey operation. When I got the green light that the funding had been finished for the Marion County zip codes, I could turn all 9 of those zip codes on in less than 30 minutes, and families could immediately start registering their children for the program.
That's great.
And the process works like clockwork. The state matching program, that started in early May, and they did it in a most beautiful way from a fiscal administrative perspective, in that Dollywood, the foundation that runs the program nationally, they simply reduce my bill by 50%, and they send the other 50% bill to the state of Oregon. And so, I don't have to wait for funds to come from the state to then pass through to Dollywood. They've just taken care of all of that front end for me. And so it's just being really smart and efficient in how it operates, that really allows me to focus my time and energy on the funding and on the outreach side of things, which is what really our community needs my focus to be anyway.
did you know that Marion County has 20 incorporated cities? That's 20 city councils that all have public comment at the beginning of their meeting. You could go and visit them and present this and ask them to encourage their community to sign up, just as a secondary thought.
I would be happy to do that. Tomorrow at noon, I'm giving a presentation to, again, the Creekside Rotary Club about our fundraising effort that we're doing in partnership with them. But yesterday morning, I was at the Dallas Chamber of Commerce, and I'm doing presentations to the Rotary Clubs in Dallas and Monmouth Independence here in the next month. So I'm happy to spread the word. It's a program that I love to share and encourage people to join.
And we missed it this year, but the fair, we did the STEAM section.
Well, we didn't necessarily miss it. We had Clifford the Big Red Dog here on Sunday, and thank you. We had Clifford the Big Red Dog here on Sunday, who was talking about the program and
Okay.
distributing information about
Fun.
it. Yeah.
Did we have a booth for them or in the?
They were he was at the community stage for a period, but then just walked around.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah,
And we can
and it was actually
continue that.
it was actually our Clifford the Big Red Dog costume that he was wearing, and so it was really a fortuitous partnership where, Clifford really has the ability to stand out in a crowd.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it does.
Great.
So again, this is kind of my listing different ideas. Perhaps there's ways in which we can partner with the county's criminal justice system. Sometimes these are our families who are experiencing the greatest need. All they have to have is a mailing address.
Yep.
If I have a way in which to get a book to them, I want to be able to reach them.
Do the books only come in English?
So presently, 2 out of each of the 6 age groups of books come bilingual.
Okay.
And so that means just 1/6 of the books are bilingual. The state of California, before they adopted the program statewide, they required that the Imagination Library provide families with the option to sign up that all the books that they would receive would be bilingual. And that was a successful pilot, and the National Foundation has now expanded that to 5 other states.
Okay.
We have heard that the trigger for when they would expand that option to Oregon is when we have every zip code in the state in the program.
Oh my gosh.
So
I think it goes to say that the fact that our, reading at 3rd grade is less than 30%. We have a significantly more diverse population than the Multnomah County area. I never like it when we try to compare communities and the cultures in those communities, because it's not an equal representation. Just in Salem Kaiser alone, there's 96 languages spoken. Those kiddos are navigating, trying to figure out how to speak their native language and English more often than not. And if they don't have the representation in a bilingual setting, it slows them down. And we're not doing a great job in Oregon's education system, in my opinion, of offering them that bridge, that transition of that bilingual transfer, because we kind of just drop them into an English space and, good luck. Especially here in Salem Kaiser, I can speak to that from being on the school board. So if there's something, if I can write a letter to Dolly Parton to ask her to maybe not make it statewide, I appreciate that ambition, but I think that hinders the goal of what our community could have access to, and I don't really love that.
And I've really stressed that point with my national contact about the program repeatedly, and she hears that and understands that, but she's a part of a really big organization.
Sure.
And I think they're trying to create momentum so that they don't have to do it just by a specific affiliate identifier, but rather, a statewide option.
I get that it's a business, but for me, this is about the intention. And I don't care how big your organization is. I want them to provide access. I'll look into it and see if we can elevate it.
So right now, there are only 5 counties in Oregon that do not have every zip code in the program. They happen to be where I was at a year ago, where, they are the most populous zip codes, which then means they're the highest cost zip codes to serve. And so, it's Washington, Clackamas, Multnomah, Polk County, because I'm still missing Dallas, and Deschutes County. And in Deschutes County, I know their issues are Redmond and Bend. Fortunately, in Oregon, we had a statewide foundation that really helped establish the program to begin with in our most rural communities. They had matching grant funds that went out to them prior to the state match. And so the other thing that Dolly said is once we're statewide in every zip code, that's when she's going to come to Oregon to do a show for us to support the program. So, I'm like, okay, I hope I get a ticket. I'm going to auction my tickets as a fundraiser for the sustainability of the program. Because, I think that's a high value, and, I'd rather see that, longtime public servant, I don't use my position for personal gain.
Yeah.
So it's there for the benefit of the
She's a
community.
great performer. I've seen her in person. It's great.
Any other questions or ideas or suggestions?
Go ahead. Well, I just want to say thank you to the commissioners for funding this. I remember we were talking about, after COVID especially, thinking about how can we help kids at home continue to learn. And I just remember having these great memories of my dad taking me to the bookstore or the library and reading to me. And so I think this is a great program, and I'm grateful for the support. And I also, you never know what kind of content you're going to get in these books, but I opened the one that you put in front of me, and sure enough, there's a soccer game going on. So that just makes me think that this is a great program.
And it's a Yeti book.
Yeah.
I like that every time you come, there's books up here.
Well,
Janice might
and
be a good way to keep my attention.
that Yeti book is also about, it's got a lesson in terms of strengths-based training where, I haven't yet achieved that skill. So the importance of the word yet, so it's encouraging persistence and not giving up, but continuing trying to hone the skills so that you can do the things that you most want to do. And it's really a great metaphor for learning how to read. It's not easy at the start for most children, but the more you practice with the right tools and the right skills, you're going to get better. And then it becomes like autopilot. Now we all pick up something and read it and don't even realize all of the foundation pieces that went into giving us that gift of being able to do that. And we want our kids to all have that too.
It's a good program.
Yeah.
Commissioner, I'll never forget this, but Orville Roth invited us to go see Dolly Parton at the Oregon State Fair. I think it was 1990 she performed at the
Oh my gosh.
fair. We sat like in the front row with Orville. And it's just great to see what she has done with this foundation and to encourage kids, and made a big difference in many people's lives. So Thank you for your work. Appreciate
And
it.
you know why she did it? Her father could not read.
Yeah.
She knew the hardship that caused for their family for a lifetime. And her father said, in spite of all of Dolly's great accomplishments, her greatest accomplishment is the Imagination Library.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Thank you for
Thank
your
you.
support.
Thanks for doing this.
We're honored to do it, yeah. Thanks, Kelly. Okay, move on to the consent calendar, and I think,
It's super long, but I'll read it. It's technically his turn, but
Oh, is it?
It
I
is.
tortured
I
him
saw this.
before.
Right, 'cause the
I
first day
saw it. I
back, he
came
came
back.
back
It was
and
like
he
a
had a long
3-page
Yeah, it's like
one, and then you had
3.
one.
No, it's his turn.
Last week, and now it's
It
my
is,
turn.
but-
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, well.
You know, no good deed goes
Go ahead.
unpunished. Okay, Mr. Chair, I move the consent agenda under Health and Human Services. Approve amendment number 1 to the incoming funds grant agreement with the Oregon Criminal Justice Commission to increase funding the amount of $203,680 for the Marion County Adult Drug Corp. for a new contract total of $549,312 through March 31st, 2026. Approve amendment number 1 to the incoming funds grant agreement with the Oregon Criminal Justice Commission to increase funding in the amount of $54,742 for the Marion County Family Treatment Court for a new contract total of $214,474 through March 31st, 2026. Approve amendment number 1 to the incoming funds grant agreement with the Oregon Criminal Justice Commission to increase funding in the amount of $31,778 for the Marion County Juvenile Drug Treatment Court for a new contract total of $192,218 through March 31st, 2026. And approve amendment number 1 to the incoming funds grant agreement with the Oregon Criminal Justice Commission to increase funding in the amount of $74,501 for the Marion County Mental Health Court for a new contract total of $345,569 through March 31st, 2026. And approve amendment number 1 to the incoming funds grant agreement with the Oregon Criminal Justice Commission to increase funding in the amount of $64,477 for the Marion County Veterans Treatment Court for a new contract total of $208,485 through March 31st, 2026. And approve amendment number 1 to the purchase order with Redwood Toxicology Laboratory to add $58,758 for a new purchase order total of $123,558 to provide urine analysis testing for the Marion County Adult Drug Court through December 31st, 2025. Under Human Resources, approve the recommendation to update the classification and adjust the pay grade upward for class codes 010, Office Specialist 1, 011, Office Specialist 2, 012, Office Specialist 3, 013, Office Specialist 4, 025, Administrative Assistant, 046, Treasury Specialist, 200, Juvenile Probation Officer Trainee, 201, Juvenile Probation Officer, 284, Administrative Assistant, Sheriff's Office, 287, Management Analyst 1, Sheriff's Office, and 655, Management Analyst 1, and update the classification and uphold the pay grades for Class Code 288, Management Analyst 2, Sheriff's Office, and 656, Management Analyst 2. Under Treasurer's Office, approve an order for the distribution of Oregon State Forestry timber revenues as referenced in Exhibit A in the amount of $6,190.67 per ORS Chapter 530.
I second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Nice job. Okay, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and since Ryan is here, I'm going to move Ryan up before we do the assessor's office. So Ryan, welcome. Well, we added an item, and they always do it in alphabetical order, and there's nobody here that's waiting after you, so we're going to let our health administrator get going fast today.
All right, sounds good. Okay, for the record, my name is Ryan Matthews, Administrator with Marion County Health and Human Services, and I am here seeking approval of a purchase order with School Health Corporation in the amount of $376,500 to provide emergency response kits for our intellectual and developmental disabilities population. So, as you may recall, I believe we came to board session, it's been several months ago, but our Marion County IDD program received ARPA funding in the amount of $753,000, and it was one-time funds aimed at preparing this population who was disproportionately impacted during the wildfires and the ice storms by allowing families to stock up on emergency supplies, on medical or power generators and power stations and things to help support their durable medical equipment and other things. So the first half of the funding, which was released to us in April, had been received, and we had been working with our IDD population around initially getting them some emergency supply kits. And so what we're seeking here is to be able to purchase those kits and have those kits delivered to families. So the emergency supply kits include things like flashlights, batteries, emergency food, MREs, bottled water, first aid kits, things of that nature. And we identified a company that can provide these ready-made kits, so we didn't have to form an assembly line and do all this ourselves, which we initially thought we might have to do. And then we were able to sort of send those menu of options out to our IDD families, and they went through a grant application process to determine if they wanted to participate, and then if they did, what kind of supply kit they would be interested in. We reached out to our total enrollment, which is about 2,850 individuals, and we received back requests from 1,715 individuals. And so this purchase order that we would be getting approved allows us to make the order based on those application results and allow us to get those distributed to families. We do anticipate coming back here in a few months to talk about kind of the next 50% of the funding, which will be aimed specifically really at power stations, power generators, things of that nature. We're still working on the procurement side to identify the best options, and then we'll again send a menu of those options out to our families and see who's interested in participating, and we'll work with a vendor which has not yet been identified on how we'll purchase those and get those distributed. So this is kind of the first wave of this, and we hope that these will be valuable emergency supplies that'll help support our population in case we face another emergency in the near future. So any questions?
I don't have any questions. We obviously had a brief conversation yesterday during management update. I just want to say I'm sad David Beam is not here today to hear this report
He would
out.
love this, yes.
Yes, he would. He was here just last week at public comment asking for kind of a mapping resource to support individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities for emergency situations. I mean, he didn't describe it that way, but that's ultimately what he was asking for, and I had shared that we were working on that. While this isn't exactly that, this is a component of the work that's being done by your team to support his request and the needs that he's expressed to us. Geez, over the 4 years I've been here as a commissioner, and so I can't wait to see him, to be like, David, go watch board session, because we're approving a contract today just for you.
Hopefully he's watching. I know he's very passionate about this population and making sure they get the supports that they need. And it's really advocacy by people like David and others in our community that make sure that this is a group that doesn't get forgotten about and left behind. And we really know we have to take special consideration because they have special, unique needs. And the more that we can be, proactive in kind of supporting them, and the better they'll be able to be responding to the ups and downs of what an emergency brings, because it can be pretty chaotic. So
And this goes without needing to be said, but it's not just about them. Mm-hmm. It's about their family and the ability for their family to successfully live comfortably, knowing that they have additional needs that are expensive. The resources to support people with disabilities in most cases are very costly. I'm proud to be a part of an organization. I know that this is funding that we received. I don't know what the brainchild was. Normally, when the state gives us money, I'm reluctant, but in this case, I'm actually thrilled that somebody had some foresight into what stabilization looks like so we can keep families together in their homes, and this is just one more component of that that will make a difference.
Really good stuff. Yeah.
great. Thank you.
You ready for a motion?
Yes.
All right, I move to approve the purchase order with School Health Corporation in the amount of $376,500 to provide critical care and medical equipment for emergency response kits through June 30th, 2027.
I second the motion.
And a motion second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And yes, David needs to,
Thank you, Commissioner.
we'll tell him next time he comes in that
Yeah.
he should have been here. Yeah. Thanks,
Thanks,
Ryan.
Ryan.
Appreciate your patience today. Okay, our next item is under the assessor's office, but I know that they're not going to be here because they've already been through this. I'm going to look over to legal counsel to explain what we're doing today.
Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, I am Scott Norris from the Office of Legal Counsel. Before you today is a proposed ordinance that will adopt the provisions of Chapter 94 Oregon Laws 2024, which was Senate Bill 1545 in the 2024 legislature. This bill allows a special assessment for rebuilt homesteads that were destroyed in the wildfires of September of 2020. This ordinance, the substantive provisions of the ordinance before you today are identical to the provisions of Ordinance 1473, which was adopted not too long ago. This ordinance will repeal Ordinance 1473 at the same time that this ordinance is adopted, so that there will be continuity, there'll be no gap in the effectiveness of the old ordinance and the effective dates of this ordinance. Along those lines, this ordinance is proposed to be adopted by emergency procedure, whereby the board votes first to read the ordinance once by title only. Then the board may vote on to adopt the ordinance. If the board adopts the ordinance unanimously, it will take effect immediately.
Okay.
Also incidentally, I wanted to mention that I spoke with Nate Combs this morning, the deputy assessor, who said so far they have received approximately 40 applications.
Wow.
For this program.
That's fantastic.
The program, he said the program has been very well received so far.
Shocker.
And for any properties that have qualified, that have for which there are refunds, those are being processed by the tax collector, and the program is doing quite well.
We should ask Nate to track the
Yep.
balance that is being refunded to, the difference in some of it's going to be refunded, some of it's going forward, what that is saving these people who are wildfire victims. That's great news. 40 applications. I thought there'd be maybe 4 by now. That's really good news.
Well, we definitely got
word's
the word out on it, for sure.
The word's gotten out, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, based on Scott's direction, I would take a motion to read the title once.
Is it, Scott, is it that simple, or is it read the title of the name, what's the name of this
And then
ordinance?
Yeah, the motion would be for the chair to read the ordinance by title once, and then
We'll vote on that.
Okay.
And then we'll come back and
Great.
vote on the ordinance.
Correct.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I move that the chair read the proposed ordinance by title once.
I second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for me to read the title once. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right. An ordinance electing to allow eligible property to be subject to special assessment pursuant to Chapter 94, Oregon Laws 2024, Senate Bill 1545 in 2024, repealing Ordinance 1473 and declaring an emergency. Okay.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve an ordinance to allow eligible properties to be subject to special assessments pursuant to Chapter 94, Oregon Laws 2024, Senate Bill 1545 in 2024, repealing Marion County Ordinance Number 1473 and declaring an emergency.
I second the motion.
We have a motion and a second to approve the ordinance by emergency. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Good. All right.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you,
Thank you
Commissioners.
for your work on that.
It's great to pass an ordinance twice. Really, really, really makes.
You know you really mean it the second time.
It's a really important point. Great. Yeah, good job. Okay. Anything else we want to discuss this morning before we close?
Tomorrow afternoon from 2 to 5, we're hosting a town hall / forum on House Bill 4002 for elected officials across Marion County for the cities predominantly. It'll be streamed online and CCTV so that public can learn along with those city elected leaders and chiefs. The presentation will be from approximately 2 to 2:45, and then we'll have question and answer by the audience. I think this is super important work that the community needs to understand is going to take time, that the recriminalization effort isn't a swift action. In fact, it's not even a full sweeping package of action for the challenges that we face in Oregon. So folks learning about the work that we're doing, I think will help them understand why the streets aren't immediately cleaned up. We're going to talk about our approach and the new systems that we're bringing online. And I plan to, towards the end, talk about what's missing, just briefly. I've asked the sheriff and the district attorney to also touch on Senate Bill 48, which impacts the concept of the catch and release frustration that the community has expressed over the last several years. I think this is a first step in the education to the public around the state laws that have been passed that have removed the tools in the law enforcement toolbox that have impacted, in my opinion, the healthcare system, the support system to help individuals who have, greater needs in addiction and mental health. We've talked a ton since I've been a commissioner around the failures of the state, and we can keep talking about that, but this, I think, is a segue that I would like the public to start becoming informed so they can start engaging in what they want to see change look like. We only have so much power. A lot of this is driven legislatively, and if the public really wants to see drastic change in their communities, then they have to really start engaging at the legislative level and talking about the bills that have been passed that have hindered community livability in a healthy way. So I would just invite the public to tune in. It will be recorded so they can watch it back. And then, as always, share your thoughts and ideas. There's lots of smart minds around us, and we're not the only free thinkers, and I'm always interested to hear from the public. And I hope that they are able to receive positively the investment that we're making with general fund and then the funding that we received from the legislation that came out of the February 24 session. But again, just to kind of wrap up, this is a small fix to a grand problem and a step in the right direction, but it's not going to be full sweeping response because we just don't have the tools or the funding and or the laws supporting us to do that work.
I was thinking recently about our work here in Marion County and your work on getting this bill passed and our work on trying to implement the recriminalization of drugs here. And one of the things that I say a lot, you kind of just mentioned, is, it took us, whatever it was, 3 or 4 years of legal drugs to get to the level of crime and instability on our streets that we see today. We're not going to get back to where we were pre-Measure 110 overnight. And I think that's important to kind of remind everybody. But I also think the way that Marion County does its work is important because I think it shows that having good government, providing good public service is hard but possible. And I think sometimes you have people who will be in government and be like, oh my gosh, it's just such a mess. It's not possible to have a functional government. Or you'll have other people who are kind of pie in the sky and be like, oh, it's easy, it's so easy. Like, I don't know what's wrong with these people in government, And I think the truth really is that it's like anything in life, it takes work.
Yeah.
Doing something right takes work, it takes sacrifice, but it is possible. And I think that's something that we show in this county is that we can make progress, we can make things better, we're willing to do the work for our community. And I think the team that's come around implementing the recriminalization of drugs in a responsible way is an impressive team, and I've been really impressed with the work that we've done. So although we do have to kind of caution people like, hey, it's going to take us a while to fully implement this plan, it is a good plan. We have smart people working on it, and I do think we're going to see some progress in the next several years.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to take some time. I think that's important.
Right.
Because it just, you're not going to turn it on. I do appreciate the immediate the immediate penalties for dealing.
Oh, yeah.
Get the bad guys quick. And I know that I'm not in front of my microphone, somebody's going to yell at me here in a minute. So I think that's really important. I really appreciate the work that you have done, and AOC did, and our sheriff and our DA on getting this here. And I think that's important, that we have somebody who really, you took the bull by the horns and just made sure that this happened. And it will take a long time to unwind what we've wound up. And I think the key here, it's just like this, right? I mean, the key here is these things take a long time to flip around. To hear that we're 30%.
Less than, she said about 20%. But
Right.
it's about 26%, I think, is the.
And what happens is, those kids at third grade, less than 30%, so that's what, 2 out of 10 kids, or
Yeah.
maybe 3 out of 10 kids will end up looking for something else because they don't have any hope, right? And then we get, we get this thing here, just do this. It's a free world with no consequences. And I think that bringing back consequences, but also the education system. And I was talking with Commissioner Pope. I saw him last night. I talked to him for probably about a half hour 2 days ago. And he was at Regional Solutions, and obviously the Regional Solutions convener now is President Howard. We don't have any representation on Regional Solutions, so that's why I reach out to him, make sure.
Yeah, he's our guy.
He's our guy. And, he said that the focus was education on, that's a regional challenge for us, and it is, obviously. I mean, we were talking about some of it today. But it was great to hear him say, hey, at the end, he brought back some of the challenges that counties really have in addition to that. And one of them, he brought up solid waste, right?
Yeah.
We've got, this is a regional challenge for us. And so it's great to have that kind of representation. This 4002 is a regional, statewide challenge, but how do we work together? And I think that question came up yesterday. Was it yesterday in the meeting about, okay, somebody comes over, it's a Polk County resident, gets arrested in Marion County, where do they go? How does that person get handled? So it is more than just Marion County, and so I appreciate that we have partners not only in Marion County but across the river and below us and above us that are trying to figure this whole thing out. So thank you for your work on this, and I will facilitate and listen, because it's one of those things that, as a board, we understand we can't be experts on everything around us.
Right.
And I appreciate that you're really digging into it, and Commissioner, you as well, on doing those things. So thank you. But where are we going to be in 3 years? That'd be key.
Well, my goal is to be in a better place. Keep driving in that direction. And I don't just mean for Marion County. I think, yes, we're elected to represent and to serve the residents of Marion County, but if we do it in a vacuum and we become the best county, then we become the landing zone for all the other problems around us. And one of the things that I appreciate about the Association of Oregon Counties is of late, in the last 2 years specifically, is the collaboration and camaraderie that's developing among county commissioners who recognize that there's literally no fences or borders between our jurisdictions, and the problems leak out regardless of what the arbitrary map looks like. And even the ones that are commissioners that are, I would say, very different than myself in certain policy perspectives have leaned into this work, because they can't walk down the streets themselves in their own communities anymore and see healthy, livable spaces. And it's frustrating and defeating. And I think the fact that we're starting to really combine our energy and our voices, that's why we had success in February. Because counties across the state, commissioners stood up and said to the legislature, you make the rule, we apply the outcome. And we have no ability to create successful, livable communities anymore because you've literally tied our hands. And I think that's super powerful. I love the support that you've given me in this role. I know it's taken me away quite a bit, and over the next few months, it's going to take me away even more. But I know that it's going to be for the betterment of our community, our neighborhoods, and our state. It means a lot to me.
Well, I know I gave you that commitment at the beginning of the year when you took on AOC, and I do feel sometimes a little bit overloaded myself, but not. When I look at what you're doing, I go, okay, I'm all fine. But I think the the whole issue of working together, collaboration, is realizing that we're all different,
Yeah.
right? In every different county, cities are all different, but realizing that we have some of the similar problems and how do we solve those together. And I think that that's been a real key to getting some of this done. One of the things I always thought about in the restaurant business was you could have a policy, or you could have a system, but it was always, what about the execution?
Yeah.
And I always told people, you can steal anything you want, but can you execute it? And I think that's what's going to happen with 4002, is that there's a policy that was crafted now. Now, how is it going to be executed? And I think, different counties will execute it a little bit different. They should, because they'll adapt things. And I think your point about, okay, if we execute it really good, what happens next, right?
Yeah.
But, the execution of what we just worked on is going to take the time.
Yeah.
And I heard on the radio today that, it was yesterday, I guess, Jessica was on the radio up there in Multnomah County, Jessica Vega Peterson.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And they pulled back on their implementation date because they don't have the staff. And we all know that. I mean, we've got this great plan, this great ideas, and we think about, our transition center that we shut down, and that's why I asked yesterday to the sheriff, I go, hey, what are you thinking here, and how are we going to pay for it, and where are the people going to come to do it? So that's the execution part that we've got challenges ahead of us, and we'll stay at it, and I know you will.
I also think there's just a lack of clarity of direction, frankly, up north. I mean, I do think
100%.
that's something that we have an advantage of, where we may not have as many resources as they do. But I think the leadership in this county just is a little bit clearer on the direction we want to go and how we're going to get there. And so it's easier to execute. Whereas when I've seen sort of their conversation about implementing 4002 up there, they don't actually agree. They don't agree on what it is. They don't agree on how to do it. And so
Their commission does not agree.
Yeah. And so you have, it's funny because we talk about DC having gridlock, but I feel like, it's not usual that your local county commission has gridlock, but I kind of feel like they're struggling with that up there.
Well, I'll just a tidbit of information, because I agree with you. I've been watching from the south, looking up north, thinking, what's going on up there? And I spent some time recently with 3 of their commissioners learning about their process of how their government is designed. And the fact that the chair has overarching authority to sign a contract and execute funding and make decisions as a body of one, I believe is the fundamental problem. And they contract out 85% of their obligatory services out of the health department. So their 4002 work, it's not being implemented in a behavioral health system of care in the county. There's no management other than a contract. And the probably, I would say, the rapid response to try to get things implemented quickly is to go execute a contract. But unfortunately, Jessica decided to implement a contract with an out-of-state organization that's never performed any operation in Oregon before and has no idea what it's like to live in downtown Portland. And that's kind of the rub that's happening up there, specifically in the community, that the shelter that they were going to build and how they were going to implement the work. When you bring a foreign agent into a space, it takes them a long time to understand the culture and get up to speed to execute outcomes. I think that that's a major problem. The difference here is that we went to our internal teams, our DA, our sheriff, our health department, and said, how do we, in our court, how do we make this work with our community partners? Not, this is your problem, community partner, here's a check.
But I also think some of it is because we have leaders in our departments who we can work with and who can work with each
Right.
other. I mean, some of that is, when I saw that
they signed some contract for 200 grand for a consultant to get the sheriff's office and the health department just to talk to each other
Right.
up there. I was like, wow, that's a sign of like some real dysfunction, you know? So I do think we're lucky, we're blessed that we have leaders in our departments who do collaborate, who work well together, who we can come to and say, hey, you know, we want to implement this complicated policy.
Yeah.
And then they say, oh, I know how to work, I know this system really well. I know the behavioral health system really well, or I know the public safety system really well. Let's put our minds together and figure out how to tailor this to our community. I think we're blessed that we have leaders who can do that here in
I
Marion
agree.
County.
It's taken a long time. And Jan, you've been a big part of that, you know, and I remember when I got here, Latimer just break down the silos, and the board worked pretty good together, but even I think you talk about public safety, I think the public safety leaders were working even at a very, very high level of productivity. I know, you know, Walt and Myers, you know, and well, Faye was here, right? But just the whole thing, and Janet leading the Public Safety Coordinating Council, just all those things that were already kind of in place, that the culture was started there, and then you talk about new leaders that have come in that have that outward vision with Public Works and Ryan and Brian and Ryan and that, and so it has been a long process, and I just wrote down this because as we're sitting here talking, I was thinking of the goals we set back in November, and how long it takes to achieve those things, right? I know not public safety, but the waste management issue, environmental services, right?
Yeah.
And how long have we been talking about that? And how long is it going to take us to? It'll never be done because you know it's constantly evolving. Everything does around us, but to get to a place where we're in a position where we can be efficient and environmentally efficient as well as efficient financially for the people of Marion County. And I think it's going to take a regional approach. I know if every county does their own thing, we won't do it as efficiently as we could as if we work together on those things. But those things are just taking time. And you've been here 6 years.
Almost.
Right?
Nearly, yeah.
January will be 6 years.
January will be
At the end of this
4
term,
years.
6 years.
Yeah.
I've been here 10 years. You've been here
4 in January.
3.5. It'll be 4 years. And how long it takes to get the ship to move, right? And it's really important to keep focused. So appreciate all the things that we're doing. Meanwhile, I think we got another big meeting after this at 10:30 to talk about another huge project that's been in the works for years and will take several years down the road to get done. Should I say it on public record?
Certainly.
What is it, Jan?
We are getting ready to issue an RFP for a new enterprise resource planning system that manages all the money, all the people, and coordinates all the information that runs through an organization. So it's pretty significant based on the size of Marion County. And the workload is huge, cleaning up and making sure we're ready as an organization to move to a new system, as well as the rollout of the new system. So we have great team members and a great consultant that's helping us, and it'll be a successful implementation. It'll take another couple of years, however.
Yeah. I think my definition of success of this will be as everybody gets their paychecks right.
Yep.
There you go.
Remember that?
That's always a good
That's
one.
it.
When
Yeah.
the state screwed up, I remember when the state screwed that up. Yeah, I think the
Right.
Statesman's Journal reported on it repeatedly.
My son-in-law works for the state, and he had fun with that, so. Well, okay,
Oh, gosh.
anything else?
No, sir.
Probably talked this one to death.
Yep.
All right, we will adjourn.